Thank you guys again for tuning in to a special, what is today? A special Wednesday episode of the Jock Talk podcast. Matt again here with Brock for you. Brock, you're in a special location today again, aren't you?
Yes, I'm at UNCW once again. Go Seahawks.
That's right. So we have a special NBA show for you guys today. I know it's a little bit early, but we like to do things early so that when we're right throughout the season, you can say that you heard it here first.
I think we're right on time. We're right on time. NBA camp just started, yesterday or today?
There we go. That's right. I've been playing a little bit more NBA 2K than I normally would have.
Yep.
But lineup for today, we got the Bucks that we're going to start off with. We got the NBA offseason. It was season.
Huge.
Pretty crazy offseason. And then we'll go through the typical MVP and award races. We'll go through our playoff predictions and champ predictions. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Brock, you wanted to start with the Bucks, right?
Yeah, I got a few questions for you because you get to see the Bucks regularly and you get to follow them a little more in depth than I do.
That's right.
Big headline from the Bucks this year is they brought in a lot of talent, or a lot of players. What's your take of the off-season acquisitions of, let's see, how many players? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 players that weren't on the team last year, 2 from the draft, 5 free agents. What's your take on all of these acquisitions this year that the Bucks make?
You know, I start off with, obviously not all of them are going to make the team. I know they just signed Jabari Brown the other day. I believe he's a wing. So not all of them are going to make the team, but I'm going to focus on a couple. Obviously, there is the free agent acquisitions of Mirza Teletovic from the Suns, as well as Matthew Dellavedova from the Cavs. I'm a pretty big fan of both signings. Teletovic is a stretch 4. He has big potential from behind the arc. Not overly athletic. He reminds me a little bit of a former Bucks either fan favorite or player that fans really didn't like, depending on who you were or depending on how he was playing. But reminds me a little bit of an Ersan Ilyasova. Tall, lanky, can shoot. Ersan had a couple of really good years with the Bucks, starting at the 4 position. So I expect him to get a decent amount of playing time, depending on what they do the rest of this offseason. But I was a pretty big fan of the Dellavedova signing. He's going to bring championship experience. Definitely brings toughness.
Yes.
He just brings that grit. He's one of those typical guys who you're like, how is this? I mean, he's 6'4", but how is he in the NBA? He doesn't really shoot incredibly well, but he's a gritty defender, and it's something I think the Bucks are gonna definitely use his experience in the finals and his defense in the right way.
I'm gonna name off a few players and tell me what comes to mind when you think of them all. Just one word that comes to mind when you think of them all. Michael Beasley.
Word association games. Beasley.
Hang on. Delly, Son Maker, Malcolm Brogdon, Jason Terry, Mirza Teletovic, and Steve Novak. What's one word that you would associate with? Maybe not all of them, but 80, 90% of them.
All those guys as a whole or as an individual?
What's one main quality that every single one of these guys have, maybe minus one?
I can't think of one thing in specific. I mean,
here's the one word that I would think of: defense, strength, and defense. You got Delly, who plays amazing defense. Thon Maker's a shot blocker. Brogdon is a seasoned 4 years. Yeah, seasoned, and he played 4 years in college at Virginia. That was a great steal in the second round. Jason Terry's always been that pesky little defender. Teletovic, like we said, he's a Ilyasova type player. I think he has a little better defense, a little better shot. Novak, he's a long body and he can shoot. Michael Beasley, he's tough. He wants to be in this league. I think that's a big thing for Michael Beasley this year is he wants to prove that he wants to be in this league. And I think the Bucks give him the best shot because I feel like he could be that sixth man that everyone expected to be a starter coming out of college.
Yeah.
Was never that quality. But sixth man, I think he will thrive thoroughly if he is that sixth man coming off the bench for the Bucks.
Yeah, I think the Bucks right now, they're deep, but they might be a little bit too deep. When you look at the guys from last year who didn't really get that much playing time, who maybe deserved more playing time, it's kind of a logjam all around. When you look at the guard positions, unfortunately, and I know we're gonna hit on this, Chris Middleton's out for a couple of months. Yep. He was a big two who can sometimes stretch and play the three. Otherwise, you have Michael Carter-Williams, you have Delly, you have Jason Terry, you have Malcolm Brogdon, who's probably a two guard in the NBA, maybe a small forward.
I would put him at the.
You have those at least four guys there, and then obviously when you go to and then you have Giannis, who we're definitely gonna talk about who's gonna play possibly a point forward position, but at the forwards you have between the 3 and the 4 you have John Henson, you have Giannis, you have Jabari Parker, you have Michael Beasley, you have Miles Plumlee, who can play the forward instead of a 5. So I think it's a logjam right now. I'm interested. I mean, we have Teletovic, which I didn't even mention.
I think the Bucks have a good 10 to 12 guys that can. They really don't have a set position, which could play in their favor against a Golden State, which we saw last year.
Yeah.
The Bucks gave them a run for their money with their length and athleticism, and they just added to that with just, I think, a little bit better defense. The one thing I will say about the Bucks, they are missing that big man center that will just bully everyone and grab every rebound alive. So I think that might be their biggest downfall. Here's one question: do you think the Bucks will trade Greg Monroe?
This is a two-part question. Do I think they will? No, not before the season starts. Do I think they should? Yes. So the Bucks have openly been shopping Greg Monroe all season. He doesn't fit with the Bucks scheme. The Bucks want to run. Greg Monroe's more of a
back him down.
He's an old school center. But he doesn't offer much on the defensive end. He doesn't block a lot of shots. He is a pretty good rebounder, though. I think he does get traded towards the middle of the season when a couple of other teams maybe get through some injuries or players don't live up to expectations.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Bucks. A lot of fans don't want the Bucks to trade Greg Monroe right now, because they know they're not going to get much for him.
Yeah.
Teams know they want to get rid of Greg Monroe, so they're going to be able to lowball and offer a developmental player. The Bucks want someone who's going to be able to contribute right away. Either that or they want a draft pick. And if I'm a team, I'm probably not giving up Greg Monroe. I'm not giving up a first-round draft pick for Greg Monroe.
Yeah.
Unless it's desperation time.
Yeah, Greg Monroe, I feel he's not a true center. He's more of a power forward. He feeds off of a big center. The Bucks don't have a big center. You see him in Detroit, he was having monster numbers. So when he came to Milwaukee, everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to be a huge, great fit." No, he failed because he needs that guy to take those two guys, or that needs that big center that takes two guys off of him on the box out so he can grab rebounds. Greg Monroe's a good talent, but otherwise, I feel like he just feeds off of other players' success as a big man. I feel like a good fit for him, if they were to trade him, would probably be Atlanta, but they already have Paul Millsap. I could see him if say Zach Randolph goes down again. I could see him going to Memphis. I could see him fit in a few other places, maybe a Phoenix type offense.
I yeah I was trying to think of earlier, and I mean all throughout the season. One of my favorite things to do uh, throughout the NBA offseason and even throughout the season is ESPN's trade machine. Um,
Yeah,
I
that's a fun
think
one.
I think a good spot for Greg Monroe, and it was the most rumored one, is Boston. They have Al Horford there who can stretch out and shoot a little bit, which would open up the middle a little bit for Greg Monroe. Um, but with losing Jared Sullinger, yes, they have Amir Johnson, but I think Greg Monroe is a little bit of an upgrade from him. I think Boston would be the best fit for him, but um, as a whole, I definitely think the Bucks are gonna do a lot better this year than they did last year. Even like we said, losing Chris Middleton to a torn hamstring. I think depending on what they do with their lineup, obviously it's um, gonna be altered a little bit from what people were thinking going into training camp with the loss of Middleton. But uh, I think I think the Bucks definitely improve. Um, and I would say as a fan and realistic expectations, the East is going to be a lot deeper this year than it has been in previous
Mhm.
years. But as a fan, it's a disappointment if the Bucks don't make the playoffs this year.
All right. You're saying it's a disappointment. So what is the key to the Bucks' success this year? Like
Easy,
one key. What is it?
Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is the key. Throughout the last couple years, steadily increasing his jumper. Last year, post All Star game or post All Star break, when he was more of the point forward, Jason Kidd installed him in that offense. He was putting up All Star type numbers. Um, so if he continues to if he takes as big of a leap forward as he did last year from the year before to this year, the Bucks' potential is out of it's you can't cap it. He's a 6'11", 220 guy who's grown about 3 inches since he's gone into the league. He can pass the ball, he can rebound the ball, he can block shots. It allows you to play. He can play 1 through 4.
Hmm.
So I think depending on his season, the Bucks will go as he goes.
Okay. That was part of my next question. So Giannis is uh, pretty much the guy now that we expect a lot out of him. Um,
Absolutely.
you mentioned it a little bit earlier about Chris Middleton's injury. How big is that injury to the Bucks? He was their leading scorer last year, so it does take away a lot of points. How big is that injury for them?
It's huge. I was surprised when they traded Tyler Ennis for Michael Beasley. Just from the standpoint of Tyler Ennis was a guy later in the season last year who had a really good year. And when you think of bringing in Beasley to, when you think of it like, did they bring in Beasley to replace Middleton? That doesn't make too much sense. Not the same position,
Yeah.
not the same skill set. But what it does for the Bucks is it severely um, takes away from their outside scoring. Chris
Okay.
Middleton was a 3-and-D guy.
Hmm. A part two of that question, part two of that question. Outside of Giannis, who has to step up for them to be successful?
I think there's a couple of guys that have to step up. Obviously, Jabari, he needs to stay healthy. One, if he stays healthy and if he can, again, if he plays like he did the first couple of games of his rookie year and throughout stretches last year, especially again post All-Star break, between Giannis and Jabari, that's a deadly combination. I would say their big men in specific, Plumlee and John Henson need to step up. Um, they need to anchor down the middle. They need to get a little bit more scoring since the outside shooting may be affected a little bit. And then the last guy, a guy who hasn't really showed up his first year in the NBA, is Rashad Vaughn. He had an up and down summer league. I know it's just a summer league, but he's the guy they brought in to be a dead-eye shooter from behind the arc, and we haven't really seen that at all. So Rashad Vaughn, he's a big guard. I believe he's 6'5". He needs to step up, and he needs to nail his shots when he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That it's their core group of guys. It's their, I would say, even their bench needs to play a big role, because their starting five, whoever that may be, is pretty consistent for the most part. All right, after a subpar season last year, finishing 33-49, what do you think is the ceiling for the Bucks?
The ceiling for the Bucks.
Are they a 50-win team? Are they a 55-60 win team?
No, they're not a 55-60 win team. I think the ceiling for the Bucks is the absolute best they can do is probably, I would say, 50-32.
All right, that's respectable. You are in the playoffs, maybe in the East. Who knows? You could be a 4 seed with that.
Yeah, I'd say 50-32. Looking at it without getting too in depth, I think you're probably 4, 5, 6 somewhere along there.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned the ceiling. I said 50-32. I think the floor for the Bucks, it could be a bad year if those players don't develop. I think the Bucks, if everything goes as badly as they could, the Bucks could be a 30-win team this year.
Oh wow, that's. Yeah. I would agree with that if Giannis gets hurt, or all the attention goes to Giannis, and the other, like you said, the other players don't hit shots, the other players don't produce, because losing that, 22 points, 24 points a game from Chris Middleton, it's a big loss for them. Like we said, we need that supporting cast to show up, and if they don't, it could be a bad season. But all in all, we say the Bucks should be a decent playoff team. Maybe get out of the first round. Would you say that? Depending who they play, depending who the matchup.
No,
you don't think they get out of the first round?
Depending on the matchup and depending how the season plays out, but as I have. Spoiler alert, I do have the Bucks in the playoffs. As I have it right now, I don't see the Bucks getting out of the first round.
Oh, wow. All right. That being said, who is the starting five this year for the Bucks day one? Not with Chris.
Day one.
Not with Chris Middleton in there, because we know he was a starter regardless, or if he was healthy, he's a starter. So with the Chris Middleton injury, who is your starting five?
Give me 2 seconds here. That's the one thing I didn't have set up. The Chris Middleton injury really does throw everything for a loop. Let's see.
Because you really, are they gonna is Jason Kidd gonna put Michael Carter-Williams at the 2 and Delly at the point? It's interesting to see. It's all up to Jason Kidd, clearly, but it's going to be interesting to see who they put where. Do they put Giannis down?
I think,
and Jabari at the 3.
I think what the Bucks do is, I think that the Bucks, within the first 10 games of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if there were 5 or 6 different starting lineups. This year, I don't think they can play Jabari I don't think they can play Giannis at the 1 right away. I think they have to wait to see how everything goes. Middleton was he was their only really true
shooter,
starting caliber, starting guard. I think I have one of 2 possibilities. I think it goes Delly at the 1. And then in no specific order, Giannis, Jabari, Greg Monroe, Plumlee. That is a huge lineup, especially 1 through 3. The other one, which I think is probably more likely, is you put Giannis at the 1, you start Rashad Vaughn at the 2, and then you have Jabari, and in a combination of Greg Monroe, Toledovich, Henson, and Plumlee at the 4 and the 5. So the Middleton injury really does just mess everything up. So it's hard to say, but I would say if there's a true guard who starts, it's not Michael Carter Williams. I would say it's probably Dellavedova and then Rashad Vaughn after that. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see even like Jason Terry start. I mean, he's old and he's one dimensional at this point, but it's truly a crapshoot at this point.
Yeah, we mentioned all of the roster moves that the Bucks did, and all the off-season acquisitions and all that. How would you grade the Bucks on their off-season?
There's two different parts. The draft, I would give them a B+. Thon Maker, huge potential. I think the Bucks are young enough where they didn't need a guy who can contribute necessarily this year. Thon Maker is not going to be ready this year. Although I know, I believe Jalen Rose has him winning the Rookie of the Year award. I don't think he contributes much this year. Like I mentioned, just the log jam up front. In free agency, give him a C, maybe a B-. I think they could have done more with the money they gave to those two guys. Even if it was bringing in just one guy instead, like an Evan Turner or a Jeff Green type who would fit the long style that the Bucks want to play. All their starters are long, all their players are long, but at the same time brings in that veteran leadership that they need. So I think overall probably a B between the draft and free agency.
So that gives you a good perspective on the team, which you expect quite a bit, giving them a B with all this offseason.
Definitely.
Going into the offseason, there was a lot of big names moving, from Kevin Durant, Derrick Rose, Rondo, Wade, Powell, Dwight, Al Horford. Like, the NBA looks totally different.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Warriors. Name one word about Kevin Durant. I do not want to spend a lot of time on this topic because I will get frustrated and very upset. One word. Kevin Durant's decision to go to the Warriors. One word. Word association. You already said you loved it. Let's do it.
That's right. One word for Kevin Durant to go to the Warriors. Back off. Hyphened back off. That's my word association is back off. Like, I'm gonna elaborate a little bit. Just give him a break. Like, I know you might not think the same, but players do it. It happens. You look at the big three starting in Boston and the big three in Miami. It was evident he couldn't win in OKC. He wants to win. It's not like he took the max contract from the Los Angeles Lakers. I would have been more mad if KD would have went to the Lakers, because that's all about money. So my word is back off. My word for him is a coward. Yeah, he wants to win, but he's ruining his own legacy by going to somewhere that's already a proven winner. OKC, they tried to better themselves. They got rid of Ibaka. They didn't need Ibaka anymore. Ibaka gave them his time, and they have Steven Adams and Enes Kanter, which were both very, very good 1-2 punch down low. They got rid of Ibaka, got a huge upgrade at the shooting guard position in Oladipo over Dion Waiters.
So you cannot tell me they did not try to better the team for Kevin Durant to persuade him to stay. But he went to a team that's already developed, already has back-to-back championship appearances, has all this stuff, and he's just going to go there. He made honestly,
nothing is certain in the NBA.
Yeah, I get that, but everyone expects them to break the record again. Guess what? I think he made that team worse because they had to get rid of Bogut, Barnes, Festus. They have no bench anymore. Everybody's gone. Spates is gone. They have no bench. It's all gone. So, say one of those players goes out, who's coming in to replace them? Iggy.
So let me
Verjao?
Comment on that a little bit. I'm gonna comment. You're gonna get your rebuttal, and we're gonna move on since you don't want to spend too much time. But
this is already more time than I wanted.
Harrison Barnes is getting the same amount of money as Kevin Durant. You can't fault the Warriors. I know you don't necessarily fault the Warriors. You say they're a worse team, but Kevin Durant's making about the same amount of money as Harrison Barnes. You can't even explain how big of an upgrade that is. Zaza Pachulia, he's a wash in my opinion with Bogut. Zaza had a huge year with Dallas. He was an all-star leader for votes for centers for a while there. And you bring in David West. So you did lose. You lost Barnes, Bogut, Ezeli, Spates, Barbosa. But you bring in arguably a top 3 player in the world. You bring in David West, who with the bank shot.
I don't like him at all. I think he's washed up.
He's in the same boat as Kevin Durant. He wants to win. He's taking minimum or close to the veterans minimum to go there. Plus, I think they're banking on Kevon Looney stepping up a little bit this year. And then also James Michael McAdoo, they did re-sign. So I think the Warriors are going to be just fine. Yes, you poke fun at Iggy, but during the finals, he was arguably the best player for their team for a couple of those games. You get one more, and then we're gonna move on to a different team, since you can tell you're getting a little bit passionate, not upset, passionate.
I just feel that team, the camaraderie is fine. It's just I feel like they have a bad taste in their mouth, which could drive them apart. Is there enough shots to go around for those 4 all-star players? 4. There's not 3. There's 4. I don't think there's enough shots to go around, because all teams have to do is really slow it down and be efficient. Like a team like the Spurs, Popovich type teams, if they can slow it down, play defense, Warriors won't beat them. Then you got the long teams like the Bucks, like the Blazers. The Celtics give them a run every time. Philly, for some reason, gives them problems because they're long and athletic. I think it's still their downfall. Kevin Durant is a great addition. Yada yada yada. He can play. He can play the game. I think he backstabbed the whole OKC Thunder. Everyone's comparing it to LeBron. I get that, but I don't think if Kevin Durant goes there, if Kevin Durant and they do not win the finals this year, it's a waste of his time. He could have stayed with OKC and very well may have won the finals with that team that they brought in.
I think the last thing to say is there's a lot of speculation about it. His relationship with Russell Westbrook, I think Russell Westbrook, more than anybody on the Warriors, is more of a I need the ball in my hands type. For as much as Steph Curry shot last year and as much as he scored, he was a great distributor of the ball.
So how about the Knicks?
Let me say one more thing about the Warriors. You mentioned
nope. We said one and done.
I'll save that for playoff time. All right,
yeah.
The Knicks. The Knicks are one of those teams this year who they're either going to be pretty good or they're going to be awful and contend for the first pick overall. If Joakim Noah, if Derrick Rose, if Carmelo Anthony can stay healthy, they're a playoff team easy. But that is a big if.
Yeah, it's huge. I think this is one of the if it doesn't happen this year, they're done. That's another team.
Yeah.
They're playing for next year.
Let me ask you this real quick. Their starting five on paper with Derrick Rose, with Melo, with Kristaps, with Joakim Noah. I don't know who their two guard
probably
is.
Probably Courtney Lee.
Courtney Lee, who's a good shooter and a good defender. Their starting five on paper, out of the NBA, where would you rate it? Say top third, middle third, bottom third. On paper, if healthy.
If healthy, middle third. I don't have the confidence in D Rose. D Rose is not the same player he was. Okay, I'll tell you this: you put that same team on paper 5 years ago. That is a stacked team. Stacked.
Starting five on paper 5 years ago, they're probably finishing with the best record in the NBA.
Oh, easily. But now, with all the injuries that D Rose, Melo, Noah, they all have, it's like you said, it's a big if. If they're healthy, they're a playoff team. It's probably, I would say, the same as the Bucks, like the same record as the Bucks, 5, 6, 7 seed, 8 seed. If they're not, they're a terrible team. I don't believe in Porzingis yet. He had a great year, I will say that, but he had those couple big games, couple big dunks that really put him over the top. That gave him more recognition that he deserved. He is a good player. He's a good young talent, which down the road I think he will be fine. But right now, I don't believe him in. Give him a couple more years. It's like everybody, all the young players, you have to give them a few years. For Porzingis, we gave him one. I don't know what to think about him yet. We'll see this year. Like we said, this is a big year for the Knicks. They're playing for this year. They want to win now. They did not build for the future. No. So they win now. If they don't win now, next year's not going to be any. They're not getting any younger. So
completely
it's a big one for us. Another team that got a few veterans is the Chicago Bulls. They brought in Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade, which, again, a few years ago, that's a great team. Wade has obviously been tormented by his knees the last 3-4 years.
Yep.
Rondo, we don't know what kind of teammate he is. He's been around the league now, and a lot of teammates have came out and said he's not a very good teammate. So we'll see how that plays out. Jimmy Butler's obviously the number one guy, and I think everyone that came in has agreed to that, and everyone knows that this is Jimmy's team. Where Jimmy goes, we go. I just don't know if the condition, again, the injuries. The injuries is another big if. The Bulls are a team that can and should make the playoffs. It's just their depth and injuries that might play a big part coming down the road.
Yeah. Also, I think they had a really good draft getting Denzel Valentine with the 14th pick. I hated him in college. He always tore up the Badgers, but as an NBA player, I think he'll come along nicely.
Yeah, his game translates to the NBA pretty well.
Definitely.
I still don't like him. I won't like him. He wears Bulls colors, and he just doesn't look good in red. I will say that.
What's next? What's the next team we got?
I got the San Antonio Spurs. Well, they brought in Pau Gasol, which is huge after losing Tim Duncan. So it's like nobody ever left.
I think it's an upgrade.
I think it is too. Clearly he's younger, but he's a better shooter, way better shooter. He's a little bit longer, better defense, probably. Well, at this point in his career, compared to where Tim Duncan was at, better defense. So I think that's an upgrade. That definitely brings everybody out of that paint. You get behind LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol. There's nobody. Is anybody going to be in the paint for that team?
Yeah.
Kawhi might be the only one. Kawhi, the quiet guy.
Yeah.
He's a huge talent. So Danny Green and then Tony Parker. Tony Parker needs to stay healthy. That's a big thing for the Spurs. He is old, so who knows what he's going to do.
Yeah, the only other thing I have to add for the Spurs is they did lose some depth as well. You mentioned that for Golden State. They did lose Boris Diaw. They did lose David West, and they did lose Boban Marjanovic as well, who was a big guy, a big cog in the middle.
Yeah, huge.
So, they did lose some depth, but I think health and I think backup stepping up to give say Tony Parker. He's been in the league a long time, but he is still I think he's only 30. So he's one of those guys who seems older than he really is. But I think some backups, especially Danny Green, stepping up is the key to the Spurs season.
Yeah. Next team that I have is a player that went home. So Dwight Howard went to the Atlanta Hawks. Is it an upgrade from Al Horford? What do you think? Is Al Horford going to Boston and the Atlanta bringing in Dwight? Is that an upgrade for the Hawks bringing in Dwight?
I think that for Dwight Howard, it's an upgrade. I think for the Hawks, maybe a little bit of a wash. Al Horford, not a true center by any means. He rebounded well. He could block shots. Dwight Howard excels at rebounding, excels at blocking shots, excels at running the court. I think the Hawks, in general.
Also, they lost Jeff Teague.
Yes.
LeBron.
You got to think 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they got off to that ridiculous start where they had 4 All-Star starters, and now you turn the reins over to Dennis Schroeder instead of Jeff Teague. You still have Kyle Korver, who's getting old, but he can still shoot lights out.
Yeah.
But then you have Paul Millsap and
Kent
Dwight
Bazemore.
Howard and Kent Bazemore, who's a really good defender.
Yes, good shooter too.
Yeah, so I have some notes on the Hawks that we're going to get to a little bit later. But I think Dwight Howard overall, I think probably for Dwight Howard and the team is probably a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah, a team that spent a lot of money on literally nothing is the Lakers. They spent so much money on Timothy Mozgov, who averaged how many minutes in the finals? Was it 2?
Yeah.
2 minutes in the finals, and they gave him all-star center type money, which is absolutely ridiculous. He is a good.
I will say, you kind of had to do that. I mean, they set the standard this offseason, but with how much the salary cap increased, you had to know that players were going to be getting outrageous amounts of money. I think I have more of an issue with the player, rather the player himself, rather than the quality of the player and how much money he's making. I think that Mozgov probably is an upgrade over Roy Hibbert, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Mozgov can step away a little bit at least. You knew Roy Hibbert was just going to be around the basket.
Nothing. Average like 3 rebounds a game and 4 points. Yeah.
Right. Although I think signing Luol Deng was huge for the Lakers. I know that he's not replacing Kobe in terms of anything like that, but just the leadership that Luol Deng brings. If they didn't sign an older guy like that, the team would have been just turmoil all season. We've seen it last year with Kobe. Not that Luol Deng is a better leader or a bigger voice or anything, but something that this team desperately needed.
Yeah, veteran leadership, definitely. They also brought in Yin Lin or whatever his name is.
Yes.
What?
Yin Lin.
What? I can't I can't
I
even
know it's
think.
the Chinese basketball league, but he's gotten stronger apparently. He had a great season over there, and
So
he's not getting paid a ton of money, so I don't see anything wrong with it.
so does Stefan Marbury. He has his own statue over there, and
Hey, Starbury's got to do what Starbury's got to do. But final thing about the Lakers, they did bring in Luke Walton, former player from the Lakers,
we'll see.
arguably was the best head coach in the NBA last year with Steve Kerr missing the first half of the season.
Yeah, the thing with that is, like, it's not all the coach. Like, I get it. You put the players in the right position, but that team, we all knew going into the season they had incredible talent, so they weren't missing much with Steve Kerr being out. They had the same success without him. So we'll see. I mean, it's a learning process for Luke Walton now that he's an official head coach. They have a lot of young talent with Randall, with ice in my veins, so I can't think of his.
D'Angelo Russell.
Yes.
Jordan Clarkson.
Yes. They have a lot of young talent. It's just they need to build around it and find that true superstar. Russell looked like he did for some of the games, and then Clarkson would take over for some of the games. So they need to find that true star with the Kobe mentality, I guess you could say, to bring the Lakers back into contention. Moving on, I mentioned this player a little bit earlier, Al Horford going to the Celtics. How do you think the fit is there?
I think he fits in well. I'm not as high on the Celtics as a lot of other people are. I know a lot of people expect the Celtics to even contend with the Cavs for possibly the number 1 seed. I think they're still lacking that take the game over type of player. Isaiah Thomas did a little bit last year, but Al Horford, I think was probably one of the bigger names who's probably going to be overhyped a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're still going to be a good team. It definitely stretches the floor a little more. But I think the Celtics won't lose a beat, really. I think Al Horford's a solid teammate. He's coming from, like, he was coached under Billy Donovan. I think he's very coachable. Brad Stevens, do not forget about that guy. He is a young coach in the makings to be one of the greatest. He's bringing that young team, and his pedigree isn't very big, but he took that Butler back-to-back NCAA Final Fours. So the Butler team that never really had that talent. So going back-to-back with that team and then bringing the Celtics back from literally they had like nothing, and then they bring Isaiah Thomas in, which everyone thought was a terrible idea, which turned out to be a great idea. And then adding all those draft picks from the Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade.
Yep.
But they have a lot of young talent again. I think they have young legs, so they're going to be able to run with a lot of teams. So it's going to be interesting to see the Celtics this year. I don't think they will contend with the Cavs for the number 1 spot, but I think they could contend for that 2-3 spot.
Yeah. So we mentioned a couple of these teams already, but let me ask you this: Give me your surprise teams this year, whether good or whether bad. Give me let's say 1 or 2 of each.
Well, I actually have 3 good, 2 bad, but I'll kind of just summarize them, I guess. A good one, I think it shouldn't be a really surprise. They were a good team last year. Surprised a lot of teams. Is the Trailblazers. They didn't lose really anybody. They brought in Evan Turner, which I think was a good addition, especially defensively. It adds a little bit of length, a little bit more depth. He can score if they need him to score. So, and then Damian Lillard's still there and doing Dame things. So I'm a huge Damian Lillard fan. Another team, which again should come to no surprise to anyone when I say it when they make the playoffs this year. They will make the playoffs this year. The Timberwolves, Minnesota Timberwolves,
Oh.
have the team. They will make the playoffs. I have so much confidence in them.
Alright.
They have already one of the top 3 centers in the league, and Big Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, is easily a big top 3 center right now, second year in the league. They also have a Gorgie Dieng, which is another huge body, young. Andrew Wiggins, young. Zach LaVine, young. Shabazz Muhammad can come off the bench and give them points, play defense. Rubio is a great distributor. Chris Dunn, the rookie coming in, is a huge draft pick that they got. And Bielitsa didn't play much last year, but I've heard very good things about him, and he's a great young talent and a long player. And not to mention, one person I did not mention is Tom Thibodeau is running that team. If they all get on board to his defensive scheme, they're going to be one scary team to watch. They might not contend for Western Conference Finals this year, but they will make the playoffs. And in, I would say, 2 years, they will be that team possibly to beat in the West.
Wow.
Another team, yeah. Remember I said that.
I have it written down.
Timberwolves are a team to watch in the next few years, especially if Tom Thibodeau can keep that core group together. It's going to be ridiculous. So I think the sky's the limit for that team in the next few years. Another team, which I was pretty impressed by, I guess. They have a good, solid starting 5, I will say. Their depth kind of questions me. Is the Orlando Magic. I love Ibaka that he went there. I think that was a perfect fit for him. He's not going to be asked to do too much. He's going to be stretch 4, opens up the floor for Vucevic. Another player which is, I think, on the rise. Aaron Gordon on the rise is a good player. Elfrid Payton is a solid player. And the one addition that they brought in that I still feel like went under the radar is Bismack Biyombo. He went under the radar. He's a good 6-man. If Vucevic or Ibaka gets hurt or foul trouble or anything, he can fill that void very well. The question is, can they shoot? They will out-rebound almost any team. I feel like they have 3 outstanding rebounders in their starting 5. It's just their consistency on offense will be the big question for them if they will be successful this year.
Yeah, I think you mentioned how you didn't like the Mozgov signing for Lakers. I don't like the Bismack signing for Orlando just because that's a lot of money for a backup center.
It's a lot of money for a starting center. Granted, okay, we look at the offseason as a whole. Everybody got money. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Mike Conley got money. They paid him MVP money for a guy that's what he made the All-Star team once.
Yeah.
So I mean, money was handed out this year. Just handed.
Yeah, for me, yeah, definitely. The amount of money spent in the NBA this offseason would probably get the United States out of debt.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, for me, my surprise teams for the positive, I also had the Trail Blazers. I like what they did. I like what they did this offseason. Also, they signed or they traded for Shabazz Napier to back up.
Yeah.
He can play either backup of McCollum or Lillard. And also they brought in Festus Ezeli, who had a really good NBA Finals for the Golden State Warriors. For me, my other surprise team, not necessarily a surprise in terms of nobody's really been talking about them, but the Houston Rockets had, in my opinion, a really, really good offseason. They brought in Ryan Anderson, who is probably one of the best shooting big men in the NBA. They brought in Eric Gordon from the Pelicans, who's a really good shooter, pretty good defender, great overall player, or really good overall player, not great. And then they brought in Nene from the Wizards as well, just a tough guy for the inside. So I think they go from barely struggling to make the playoffs to the upper echelon, upper top half of the West this year.
So you're saying Dwight Howard was that big of a distraction or downfall? Or
no, I don't think so. I think that when you look at it, the only one player they really lost was Dwight Howard. He was just too highly paid. So if you had to give me between Dwight Howard or the three players I just mentioned, obviously I'm taking those three players. I think Dwight Howard individually is better than any single one of those players. But I think especially, and then bringing in Mike D'Antoni to run the Rockets offense, I think the Rockets are going to score about 194 points a game this year.
It definitely the additions of all of them definitely spreads the floor for James Harden to really execute. He scored 29 points a game last year with an offense that was very bipolar in how they wanted to play.
And
so I think it spreads the floor.
The starting point guard they announced already. So Pat Beverly is going to be coming off the bench. So that's going to be a high scoring, maybe not as defense oriented.
Maybe not 194. Maybe not 194. Oh, defense. We want to talk James Harden and defense? Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm saying it's not going to be a very good defensive team, but they are my surprise team this year. Surprise on the negative side. One of these teams, not a surprise, not as much of a surprise. A lot of people expect them to be kind of down this year. We mentioned them, the Chicago Bulls. I do not have them making the playoffs, even with Dwayne Wade, even with Rondo, bringing in Robin Lopez, having Jimmy Butler. I think it's too much, and like I said, I think the East is going to be a lot better than it was last year. And then the second team for me, I still have them making the playoffs, but dropping down. I have the Hawks as a disappointing team this year. I have them finishing 6th in the East this year.
Yeah, a couple teams that I have. I agree with you on both those. That could easily be that way. But I think the Clippers don't make the playoffs. I just don't like. I just don't like their team. I don't like their makeup. I don't think they're that good.
That's getting tweeted out.
Blake Griffin doesn't astonish me anymore. He's more of just a dunker ticket. He brings in money. DeAndre Jordan can't do much besides rebound and catch alley-oops.
I wish we had more time in this show for me to argue. But
I love Chris Paul. He is one of my all-time favorite point guards, but I just think the team camaraderie is not good. We saw it last year. I just don't. They didn't do enough this offseason. I don't like their team build-up. The inconsistencies, the injuries just are very. I just don't like the team. That's just me being me because I just don't like the Clippers.
That is definitely you being you.
I don't like the Clippers. I don't like their team. If they make the playoffs, they're a seventh seed team. I don't think they're a very good team in a tough West Division, and a tough NBA now with all the mix-ups. I just don't see they didn't do anything that bettered their team in the West. So that they're, I would say, seventh seed at best. Another team, a lot of people riding high. I still do think they make the playoffs, is the Raptors. I think they will take a step back. Kyle Lowry, we saw in the playoffs, just go lackluster. Didn't know if he wanted to play good or play bad. Leaving the games early to go back to the locker room. It didn't look like he was fully there. If he's fully there, he's a very good talent. But DeMar DeRozan can play very well. I just don't think the Raptors, again, did enough to better themselves that like everybody else did. I think they will contend for the playoffs. But I just think coming off of a 2-seed season, they were a 2-seed, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. So they're not going to go up. They're not going to stay the same. I still think they make the playoffs, but the 6th seed, 7th seed.
Wow. All right.
Those
were two.
I went bold. I just
Yes.
I went bold. You took the easy way out, maybe. Some would say.
Hey.
Some would say
that you can. I'll take that. Compared to you, definitely did not go as bold. So next, what we have up is our breakout star candidates. We're starting to run out of time a little bit, so we're going to we'll go ahead and make these quick. My list has 3 guys. I'm only going to talk about one of them. For me, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Harrison Barnes, I think, has a breakout season for the Mavs, with a better chance to score the ball and probably having to score the ball more. And then Dennis Schroeder. I mentioned the Hawks are one of my disappointing teams, but I think he takes those reins from Jeff Teague and he runs with them. A Rondo plus type, can pass the ball just as well, but probably has a little bit better scoring. But Giannis, I think the ceiling for him is All-Star Game starter. I think the floor for him this year is All-Star Game reserve. I don't think there's any way that he does not step up. I think he's on the fast track to being a top 4 or 5 player in the NBA in the next 2 to 3 years. He's still super young. Just got a 4-year, $100 million contract. So my breakout player, I would say he finishes in the top 10 in MVP voting this year is Giannis.
Yeah, those are very solid picks. My 3, which one should not be a surprise, or 2 really that aren't really surprises, but I expect them to take a huge leap with their team. Damian Lillard, clearly. I think he's going to take that team to another level. I think they will contend right there with the Warriors this year. Paul George. I think Paul George wants to prove to everybody that he deserves to be in the top 3 small forwards and one of the best in the league, which I already think he is top right there, right next to LeBron and KD, right there. I think he wants to take that next step to be like, hey, I am 1B right there, same stats as LeBron, same everything as LeBron, better shooter than LeBron.
Yeah.
And then my 3rd, it was tough to pick a 3rd one really, because all the teams. But I think it's not really going to be a breakout year. He's going to have a better year. He's going to better fit. I think Dwight Howard will have a better year with the Hawks. I'm not saying he's going to put up double every night. I think he's going to find a consistency. He's going to find a home. He's going to find the passion again, being back home in Atlanta.
It's a better schematical fit.
It really is. If you really want to argue, he's back to that. He's that guy, like he was in Orlando, which he thrived thoroughly. Now he's back being that guy, kind of, you would say, in Atlanta, and I think that's a better fit for him. He'd rather be that guy. He'd rather be the number 1. That's who he is. I think he will have a better year. It's not going to be a breakout. He's not going to be anything spectacular, but I think he will average a double-double, at least 12 and 12, with at least 2 or 3 blocks. I think he gets back to the right form of Dwight Howard of old.
All right, so next we have our MVP picks. For me, the guy who I'm picking to win MVP could either easily win the MVP, or he could finish not even as the highest MVP vote getter on his own team. I think I'm probably taking the easy way out here. But
probably
coming off of Finals MVP, record-setting Finals, I am going with LeBron as my MVP this year.
Yeah, I don't want to disagree with you because you know how big of a LeBron fan I am. Yep. I think if it isn't LeBron, I hope it gets back to, are you the most valuable on your team Like not like Steph Curry. Steph Curry, I think we both agree, is a very, very great player. I don't think he deserved to be. He deserved the MVP last year, but it did not deserve to be unanimous. I think we can agree on that. 100% agree on that. So I think the person that's going to bring the most value to the team, if they go back to that type of voting, I think is Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, I think without Kevin Durant there the full year, he's always had, oh, Kevin Durant's going to be back here. Kevin Durant's going to be back this time. Kevin Durant's still here. Kevin Durant's gone. Kevin Durant is gone. He's not coming back. So this is Russell Westbrook's team. I think he will take it and run with it. We already seen the explosiveness from him, Russell Westbrook. If it isn't LeBron, it is Russell Westbrook. I will pick Russell Westbrook. I want to see Russell succeed. I've bashed him over the years. I have not liked him over the years, but I want to see him succeed without Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant looking over his shoulder.
So with that, we're not going to have time to go through our exact playoff prediction order, but we will get those tweeted out. With that, do you have OKC making the playoffs? Because I agree that if you're going by most valuable, Russell Westbrook's probably going to be there. But if you're not going to have an MVP of the league from a team who's below 500 and out of the playoffs, so do you have them?
If he's averaging a triple double and they still lose, I mean, it's hard to to pick. It's hard. Like we don't know what this OKC team is going to do. If they succeed, I think they will make the playoffs. They're not going to be a very high seed team, but I think they will make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh.
The next award race we're going to talk about, we'll tweet out any of our six-man and comeback player of the year awards, but we have the rookie of the year award. I know before the show...
You go first. You go first.
Before Please. The show, me and Brock were getting kind of excited about this one thing, and we might have the same guy. I have two guys. I couldn't choose between one Buddy Hield.
Choose one. Just one.
You know, my rookie of the year... in terms of how long he's been in the NBA, he's not a rookie. My pick for rookie of the year...
We picked the same one.
...is Joel Embiid.
Thank you. We picked the same one. I think, yes. I've seen the videos on him, his practice tape. He looks like he is like 280 pounds. He is huge.
Yeah.
I
He's
like
been in the league, what is it, going on 3 years now?
Three.
He's been going on in the league 3 years, so I believe he's been practicing with the team. So even if he doesn't have those in-game experience, I think he has a great year. I think that gives. We've heard rumors all throughout the offseason about the 76ers either trying to trade Jahlil Okafor or Nerlens Noel. I think
Nerlens said, "Hurry up and make the decision." Pretty much. Did you see that? He did say someone's got some. He said it's kind of foolish to have three centers on the team.
Yeah.
So is that like, hey, I want out, or?
I think Joel gives them reason to pull the trigger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think this preseason, if he's playing in this preseason, watch out. Him, Ben Simmons. If they keep Nerlens or Okafor, ooh boy, ooh boy. Yeah. 76ers could surprise some teams. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they will fight every inch, every game.
All right, final predictions here, Brock. You ready for our championship predictions? Early
Way
championship
too early.
predictions.
Way too early.
Let's go this way. Let's go by conference first. Who do you have coming out of the East?
Is this a question? It better be the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Agreed. Who do you have coming out of the West? I know we're going to disagree on this one.
Yes, because you probably picked the fucking Clippers. Didn't you?
I have the Clippers coming out of the West. I don't have them finishing with the best record in the West, but I have them coming out of the West with their starting five, and then adding Raymond Felton, Brandon Bass, and Maurice Spates. Just that veteran depth that they lacked last year. I have the Clippers doing it. Doc Rivers, I love him as a coach. You mentioned I'm bigger on Blake Griffin before he got injured last year.
punching people.
He was stepping out, getting that mid-range game, even shooting a couple of threes a game. So I do have the Clippers going to the finals.
Yikes! All right, I mean, you might say yikes to mine, but we're both pretty high on this team. I pretty much picked this team because I don't want the Golden State Warriors to go. But I picked.
You don't have Portland.
I do have Portland. I do have.
Oh wow!
It's mostly because I don't want to see the Warriors. I do not want.
So this is you picking with your heart, not your head.
Well, did you pick with your heart, not your head? You picked the Clippers.
I picked with my head. I think that
see,
the Clippers.
The Clippers we expect every year to be good, and they suck every year.
They don't suck.
They're not good.
Possibly, but
they're not good.
So you have what's your championship prediction? For me, I have Cavs in 5.
I have Cavs in 5.
God, I promise we don't practice this. We're just in sync. We're the opposite of like Skip and Shannon or Skip and Stephen A.
Fuck Skip.
We're probably a little bit more handsome and a little bit smarter too, but that's just my own opinion. But whatever. So Cavs over Clippers, Cavs over Blazers in 5. Speaking of NBA Finals, we have our best teams from the last decade or two going again against each other in our What If Sports Game of the Week.
Shout out to What If.
Shout out What If. Great website. Check it out. You can spend hours on it a day. Brock, you chose the 03-04 Pistons with Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. Definitely one of the dominant teams over the course of a couple of years in the past 15 years. I probably took an easy way out. I took the 2012-2013 Cavs. It was the, I believe, second year of the Big Three era. Third year of the Big Three era.
You mean Heat? You said
yes,
Cavs.
Excuse me. Yes. The final score from that game was not even close. The final score was Detroit Pistons 70. Miami Heat 129.
Goodness.
LeBron finished with 22 points, 14 rebounds. Dwayne Wade 21 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. Chris Bosh 17 points, 8 rebounds. Ray Allen chipped in with 12. So
that's a fluke.
A big blowout.
That's a fluke.
You know what? Let's run it again because some of these things do depend on the
court,
the court, the home team. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch. Detroit Pistons playing at home. Miami Heat going there. The score definitely a lot closer. However, Miami pulls away 83-81.
Oh, see, that makes more sense.
LeBron again with 22 and 14. Dwayne Wade with 22 for the Pistons. Even scoring all over the place. Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton with 12 and 14 respectively. Any other final news, notes, comments? I know I said keep an eye out on Twitter for our record predictions or our predicted order of finish in both the East and the Western Conference. But anything else to throw out, Brock?
RIP 16. Big loss. Miami Marlins, Jose Fernandez. I was very, very saddened when I found out the news Sunday. Such a talent to lose. Thoughts, prayers goes out to his family and friends and all teammates. It was very sad to hear that news.
Yeah,
probably one of the biggest tragedies in sports in recent history.
Yeah, and it really struck home for me considering that he is our age, so it can obviously it happens to anyone regardless of race, money, age. So thank you for bringing that up. Again, rest in peace, Jose Fernandez. But with that, give us a follow on Twitter at JockTalk, WINC. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube page. And with that, we will see you next time.